Hey guys, Pureblood here, back with another video. I just wanted to go over some changes that were made on the KR PTR last night. There's huge class changes across the board, but in this video I just wanted to focus on Scrapper, of course. So we can jump into the patch notes over here, and I guess the first change actually that was made that isn't Scrapper specific, but has an impact on the class is the change to Conviction and Judgment runes. Um, so I don't think this is commonly used in shock builds, more so in taijutsu. I could be wrong about that though, but apparently taijutsu this was very strong, and they're just changing the math, I guess, behind how they calculate the cooldown reduction. So I don't know how big of a change this is, how big of a nerf this is going to be, and whether it affects taijutsu or shock. I'm not too familiar with it, but just keep this in mind. So this could be a nerf to maybe more so taijutsu than shock. But if we get into the actual notes for Scrapper here. So the first thing off the top is that you'll see we got this crazy damage buff to all skills, except for basic attacks, by 24%. So that's massive in PvE, of course. But that's just because of the other changes they made. So let's not get too excited here. So the first one is charging blow. It says forward blow, but it's charging blow, and they changed the tripod effect, the battle ready one. Let's see here. Yeah, ready attack. So this was like the best tripod for scrappers because it gave you like a self buff for 3 seconds that would increase your attack power. So you'd want to use this ability before you used any of your big damage hitters. So in my case, a big shock skill. So this was so good, and it was so good that it's kind of limited the playstyle of the scrapper to revolve around constantly using this before you use a big ability. It's the same thing with Fierce Tiger Strike, the rough smash here. It gives you an attack power buff for 3 seconds. So, you'd kind of be going back and forth between charging blow and Fierce Tiger Strike. So you do charging blow, shock ability, Fierce Tiger Strike, shock ability. So I can just show you. So you use charging blow into supernova, Fierce Tiger Strike into Death Rattle, and then back to the Charging Blow, to another Shock. And so this playstyle kind of like limited, how are you able to play Shock? So what they're wanting to do is get away from that. So they've completely removed the attack power buff on both Forward Blow and Fierce Tiger Strike. And it looks like, the translation is kind of hard to see what the new change is. So you'd think, oh wow, like, so it gives you a buff that increases the damage to enemies. Like, no, I don't think so. I think this is just a buff to this skill. Like, that's it. Same with this one. Like, it looks crazy. It looks like 388%. That's nuts. But it's 380% just to this skill. So they're taking away the buff to the rest of your kit, and they kind of go into detail at the bottom here as to why they did that. They said they changed, this is the charging, oh, these are both the Fierce Tiger Strike and the charging blow tripods. They've removed the attack power increase effect, caused the battle structure to rise is stiff, and the variation in damage caused by the skill is widening. In response, the attack power increased tripod effect was removed to alleviate the rigid structure, and the performance of the infighter was readjusted to allow for more free battle. So basically what they're saying is that these tripods were too good, that like everyone had to use them. You're forced into playing around them to give yourself the buff into a big skill because the damage the damage caused by the skill was it was too big to overlook. Like, if you didn't use these, you were falling behind. That's essentially what they're saying. So they wanted to remove that kind of rigid structure, that play style that forced you into playing this way, and then give you a bit more wiggle room into how you want to play, which is nice. So, um, so yeah, they've completely changed these skills, and so now, like for shock especially, like taijutsu, you still might build into these a bit. Um, just because your damage, for the stamina skills, still skills with your shot class or the class skill. But for shock, like this just turns back into a mobility skill. I'm pretty sure. Like I don't think you're really going to want to build into this at all. Same thing with first Tiger Strike. You'll probably just want to go up to the focus tripod here. And that's it. I mean, it's still like a really good ability because it has your synergy on it with the damage increase, and Charging blow is still really good for the mobility. And man, it feels so good just to get the excellent mobility tripod. So now it like goes like a really good distance. It's the same distance as my Dragon Advent, and you don't have to keep on spamming this on cooldown. You can save it for using it as like an extra way to move around instead of constantly using it as a damage buff, which is really nice actually. Okay, and then the other things they change, I think this is like a buff to the damage reduction, but this is more of a taijutsu thing, so I'm not too familiar with it. That's the other thing. Like this could be like a really good for taijutsu because their damage is the damage increase on these skills is a lot better than with shock, right? The other change is just the same thing across the board with all the other classes. They're changing the head attack skills to back attacks to more fall in line with the rest of their kits. So, back attack classes will have just back attack abilities, which is nice. And then the big change with the awakening, the second awakening, is they've just given us a little bit more room to get off the max damage. So instead of what is it in game here? So to do max damage, you have to be within 0 to 2 meters, and now with this change, you have an extra meter, so 0 to 3 meters to get the full damage in, which is nice. Um, yeah, and then so extreme chess, that's actually the that taijutsu class engraving. So they just buffed this by I think 5% here. Um, because I guess maybe they knew that the change of the conviction and judgment runes was going to affect Taijutsu a little bit more. Maybe that's why they gave him a little bit of a buff there. So yeah, that's kind of the big news with Shock Scrapper. A huge damage buff, although offset by some of the rune changes they made to Charging Blow and Fierce Tiger Strike, or yeah, Fierce Tiger Strike. So I guess we'll have to wait and see, how these numbers and changes really affect shock and taijutsu, and it'll be interesting to kind of see what some of the Korean players have to say about these changes as well. So those are my thoughts on the scrapper changes. What do you guys think? Are these good changes, bad changes? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below, and thanks for watching.